Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today we're stepping backward to the late 1960s, a time of social change, bold experimentation, and economic shifts that affected everything from the music on the radio to the metal in our money. More specifically, we're diving deep into one of the most surprisingly intriguing pieces of small change ever produced by the United States Mint, the 1967 Washington quarter. At first glance, it seems like one of the most ordinary coins imaginable. Millions were made, people used them every day, and almost all of them carried absolutely no mint mark at all. In fact, most people alive then or now would have considered it nothing more than a common, forgettable coin. But, as many collectors and treasure hunters already know, the world of numismatics often hides stories behind the smallest details. The 1967 quarter is one of those coins whose background is far more interesting than anyone expects. To understand why 1967 quarters spark curiosity, you first need to know what was happening in the United States in the early and mid-1960s. The price of silver had climbed sharply, and this complicated the mint's ability to continue making certain denominations with their traditional metal composition. For decades, quarters had been made of 90% silver, and people had come to trust that stability. But by the early 1960s, rising silver prices created a situation in which the melt value of the coin started to exceed its face value. Savvy Americans began pulling silver coins out of circulation, hoarding them for the metal content, and causing a shortage of coinage across the country. This shortage put pressure on the mint, which needed to find a solution quickly. The answer came in the form of the Coinage Act of 1965. This law removed silver from quarters entirely, changing them from silver-based coins to clad compositions, a copper core sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel alloy. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. The new clad quarters entered circulation, re-establishing stability and ensuring that quarter production could continue without relying on expensive silver. However, this law also had another consequence, one that directly affects the mysterious identity of the 1967 quarter. Starting in 1965 and continuing until 1967, the Mint made a decision: it would completely remove mint marks from all coins. The goal was straightforward. Treasure hunters and coin collectors were eagerly searching for coins from specific mints, especially those stamped with rare marks or low mintages. This behavior was causing the public to hoard newer coins just as much as older silver ones. The Mint believed that removing mint marks would discourage this and help more coins stay in circulation where they were needed. So from 1965 to 1967, no Washington quarters carried any mint mark at all. Whether they were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, every single one was anonymous by design. This is where the story starts to become interesting. Because the 1967 quarter technically has no mint mark, it might seem like there is nothing to search for. And for most people, that's exactly right. Most 1967 quarters are extremely common and worth only face value unless they are in truly exceptional condition. But among the millions created, a very small number stand out. Some were struck on planchets that weren't meant for them. Some show unusual errors created during the minting process. And a select group of them were preserved in such pristine condition that collectors now chase them passionately. When it comes to coins, condition is everything. The difference between a well-worn piece of pocket change and an untouched example straight from the mint can be staggering. Quarters from 1967 that were pulled aside, protected, or even unintentionally stored in perfect conditions have become the key to unlocking their potential value. In fact, grading services, the companies that assess the condition of rare coins, have identified a few 1967 quarters in ultra-high-grade condition, so sharp and so flawless that they seem almost freshly minted even decades later. These are the coins that collectors dream of, the ones whose surfaces show no scratches, no circulation marks, no imperfections. When a coin from a year as common as 1967 is found in such superb condition, it becomes a star. And an extremely rare example of just this type of quarter once crossed the auction block, stunning bidders and creating a wave of excitement in the collecting world. But before we get to that impressive moment, let's pause to talk about something that captures the imagination of nearly every coin enthusiast: minting errors. Error coins are some of the most exciting pieces to search for, and the 1967 quarter offers several fascinating possibilities. Because this was a time of rapid production and major changes within the mint, a variety of mistakes slipped into circulation. Some 1967 quarters were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other denominations. That means a quarter could be struck on a dime planchet, producing a smaller, thinner coin with missing details around the edges. Others might show broad strikes, clipped planchets, off-center strikes, die cracks, and other unusual flaws. Each of these represents a tiny moment where something unexpected happened during the minting process. For collectors, these errors are not defects, they're treasures, the rare exceptions that bring excitement and value to otherwise ordinary coins. Now let's return to the rarest and most valuable 1967 quarter ever recorded. Coin collectors still talk about this extraordinary example because it was authenticated, graded at an elite level, and placed into an auction where competitive bidders fought to own it. The coin displayed virtually perfect surfaces, incredible luster, and razor-sharp details. It was the sort of result that only happens when a coin has been perfectly preserved from the moment it was struck. When the auction finally closed, history was made. A single 1967 Washington quarter, a coin that most people would never think twice about, sold for a jaw-dropping amount. That sale turned heads, sparked new interest in the date, and sent collectors back to their old boxes and jars of loose change. Anyone who had a 1967 quarter suddenly wanted to take a closer look, just in case one of their old quarters carried the same extraordinary quality. But beyond the excitement and the surprise, this story carries a broader lesson. Sometimes the most valuable things are hiding in plain sight. Sometimes an everyday object, a coin, a stamp, a piece of memorabilia, turns out to have far more significance than we ever imagined. And sometimes a humble quarter can climb to a value that seems unbelievable. So if you're watching this video and thinking about your own coin jar or the collection you inherited from a relative, take this as your sign. Examine those coins. Look carefully. Pay attention to details like surface quality, strike sharpness, unusual tones or colors, and any hint of an error. While the odds of finding a masterpiece are slim, the world of numismatics is filled with wonderful surprises, and you never know what you might discover. The 1967 Washington quarter will always stand as a symbol of a unique moment in American coinage. The mint was undergoing massive changes, the public was adjusting to the disappearance of silver coins, and the entire country was transitioning into a modern era of currency. Those small metal discs, simple, common, everyday quarters, helped shape the financial habits of millions. And within that year, a few extraordinary survivors now exist as cherished pieces of American history. We're diving into a story that blends everyday pocket change with the thrill of discovery. Imagine reaching into your change drawer, expecting to find an ordinary 25-cent coin, and instead uncovering a hidden treasure worth more than some people's cars, tuition payments, or even entire collections. That's exactly the kind of mystery and excitement wrapped up in the world of the 1978 Mintmark Washington quarter. So sit back, relax, and let's begin a journey through history, minting quirks, collector secrets, and the surprising ways a small silver-colored coin from the late 70s can make your heart race. To understand why collectors are fascinated with quarters from 1978, we need to rewind to a time when gas prices hovered below $1, disco music pulsed through clubs, arcade games were just beginning their rise, and American coinage was transitioning through a subtle but important evolution. The Washington quarter had already been in circulation for over 4 decades by 1978. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the design by John Flanagan had become an American classic, familiar, timeless, and widely used across the country. By the late 1970s, the quarter was struck not in silver but in the now standard copper-nickel clad composition. To most people, these coins were simply used to buy snacks, feed pay phones, or fuel arcade machines. But as any serious numismatist knows, even modern clad coins can contain hidden rarities. At a glance, you wouldn't expect anything extraordinary from these mintings. After all, millions upon millions were produced, far too many, you might think, for any to be considered rare or valuable, but within the realm of coin collecting, it's not always about how many were minted. Sometimes, value emerges from condition, from flawless preservation, from unusual errors, from perfect strikes, or from incredible, once-in-a-million survivals, and that brings us to what makes the 1978 Washington quarter such an exciting coin to study. Most 1978 quarters you see today are worn down, covered in decades of scratches, and worth exactly 25 cents. They've lived long. Hardworking lives in pockets, machines, stores, and glove compartments, but a tiny handful have survived in breathtaking, almost impossible condition, struck sharply, preserved perfectly, and maintained as if frozen in time by a coin collector with impeccable foresight. These coins, especially those graded by top-tier grading services at the highest mint state levels, command serious attention. Collectors prize them for their luster, strike quality, absence of blemishes, and sheer rarity in pristine condition. And when you combine all those factors, you get a coin that seems ordinary until you look closer, and realize it's anything but. The reason the 1978 quarter can fetch huge amounts at auction comes down to a simple truth: finding a modern clad coin from the 70s in flawless mint condition is extremely difficult. Coins from this era weren't routinely saved, especially not in bulk or with special care. Most entered circulation immediately. The minting process itself wasn't as refined as it is today, meaning strikes weren't always precise. Small imperfections, even tiny contact marks, could drastically lower the grade. So a perfect or near-perfect survivor stands out like a shooting star. Collectors chase that perfection. They hunt down the highest graded examples, and when one surfaces, the bidding competition becomes fierce, driven by rarity, desire, and the knowledge that coins like this almost never appear. Grading is everything. A 1978 quarter graded in the low mint state range, say MS 60 or MS 63, might only be worth a few dollars. Even MS 65 coins are somewhat accessible, but once you reach the upper stratosphere, MS 67, MS 68, or that elusive MS 69, the population thins dramatically. At these levels, every tiny detail of the coin matters: every line, every reflective surface, every little whisper of luster. One tiny scratch can drop the grade. One small strike weakness can drop the grade. One microscopic contact mark from another coin can drop the grade. This level of perfection is what makes top-tier examples breathtakingly scarce, and with scarcity comes value. In the coin world, there was a moment that left collectors stunned. A 1978 Washington quarter, struck at a U.S. mint, preserved with unbelievable perfection, entered the auction spotlight. Experts studied it, collectors eyed it, and grading reports confirmed its near-miraculous condition. Then came the bidding, hands shot up. Phones buzzed. Online bidders chimed in. What seemed like an everyday quarter suddenly transformed into a prize fought over by those determined to own the best of the best. The final hammer price, it soared far beyond what anyone casually flipping through pocket change would ever imagine. But as you'll hear in just a moment, that staggering figure reflects not just money, but the story, rarity, beauty, and collector passion behind the coin. Behind every rare coin lies a story. Maybe it was tucked away in a box for decades. Maybe it was set aside by someone who loved collecting but never lived to see its future glory. Maybe it survived by pure luck, escaping circulation because it happened to be included in a sealed mint set. And sometimes, stories like these remind us that collecting is more than a hobby. It's a way of preserving history, appreciating art, understanding craftsmanship, and keeping alive the quiet beauty of everyday objects that carry the past into our hands. That's why even a modern coin like the 1978 quarter can inspire emotion. It represents a moment in time, a moment that could have been lost in circulation forever, but instead became a treasure. If you're curious whether the 1978 quarter in your own coin jar might be something special, here are the signs collectors look for. Mint state condition: the coin must appear untouched, with no signs of wear. Full luster is essential. Strong strike details: look for sharpness in Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers, and the lettering. Mirror-like or satin surfaces: proof-like qualities can boost appeal. No contact marks: even tiny dings or scratches can drastically reduce value. Uncirculated mint set origins: the highest grade coins often come from original mint sealed packaging, while the odds are extremely slim. The joy of the hunt is what makes collecting great. And you never know, checking your change might reveal something unexpected. So, from historical roots to minting details, from condition rarity to auction drama. The story of the 1978 mint mark Washington quarter isn't just about a coin. It's about how everyday objects can become extraordinary. It's about how a simple piece of metal can travel through time, survive the odds, and end up astonishing collectors around the world. The story of the 1974 United States Washington quarter is a tale many coin collectors admire, because it mixes everyday American history, minting technology, unexpected rarities, and the thrill of searching for a small piece of silver-colored metal that could be worth far more than its face value. To the average person, a quarter minted in 1974 feels like nothing special, just a circulating coin used for vending machines, parking meters, or loose change left in a kitchen drawer. Yet for coin collectors, certain 1974 Washington quarters, especially those with specific mint marks or highly graded conditions, have become surprising treasures. This script will walk viewers through the background of the coin, the significance of its mint marks, the traits that make some of them rare, and why one particular example astonished collectors with a record-setting value. The Washington quarter was originally introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of America's first president, George Washington. By 1974, the design had already circulated for more than 40 years, becoming one of the most recognizable pieces of American currency. The obverse features the left-facing bust of George Washington designed by John Flanagan, while the reverse carries the image of a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings. Although America had shifted away from silver coinage nearly a decade earlier, the overall design remained the same, and millions of these coins were struck every year for everyday use. What makes 1974 interesting is that it comes just before one of the biggest changes in American numismatic history, the debut of the bicentennial quarter with its special colonial drummer reverse in 1975 and 1976. Because of the massive preparations required for those bicentennial designs, 1974 quarters mark the final year of standard Washington quarter production before the two-year bicentennial celebration replaced the usual design. That alone gives 1974 a quiet historical importance. It represents the end of an era, a coin that bridged the classic design with the soon-to-come commemorative era. In 1974, the United States Mint produced quarters at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint left its own identifying mark on the coin. Philadelphia, at that time, placed no mint mark on its quarters. Denver used the D mint mark, and San Francisco used the S. Understanding these mint marks is critical for collectors, because the mint mark affects rarity, survival rates, and potential value. Most 1974 quarters from Philadelphia and Denver were produced for circulation. This means they were struck in large quantities, released into everyday commerce, and used by millions of Americans. These circulated coins usually do not carry extraordinary value unless they possess something unusual, such as a striking error, exceptionally sharp details, or an unusually high preservation grade. Even so, coin collectors keep searching through rolls of change, flea markets, and estate sales because rare examples have surfaced in the most unexpected places. San Francisco's 1974 quarters are a different story. San Francisco did not strike regular circulating quarters that year. Instead, it produced special proof coins made specifically for collectors. Proof coins are struck using polished dies and carefully prepared planchets, resulting in a mirror-like surface, frosted details, and razor-sharp edges. These coins were placed into protective plastic cases and sold directly to collectors. Because they were not meant for circulation, proof 1974's quarters are generally found in beautiful condition. Although they are not considered rare in the world of proof coinage, a perfect grade can still elevate their value dramatically. The fascinating part of the 1974 quarter story lies in its extreme outliers, those exceptional examples that break away from the ordinary. Some 1974 quarters struck at the Denver Mint, for instance, have been found in remarkably pristine condition. When a coin survives for decades without a single scratch, dent, or mark, something incredibly rare for a circulating coin, it can achieve elite certification grades such as MS-68 or even MS-69. These grades are like the Olympic gold medals of the coin world, and they can multiply a coin's value exponentially. How does a regular 1974 quarter escape wear and tear? Usually, such coins come from original sealed mint sets, forgotten rolls of coins stored in vaults, or collections preserved by people who never imagined their change could one day become valuable. The higher the grade, the more dramatic the price becomes, especially when the population of known high-grade examples is extremely low. In the case of some 1974 D quarters, the combination of condition rarity and collector competition has produced breathtaking auction results. Error coins add another layer of fascination. The 1970s were a time when minting machinery faced periods of intense workload, and mistakes occasionally slipped through. Some 1974 quarters display off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, or die cracks. While most errors are minor and add only modest value, a major striking error can transform an otherwise common coin into a desirable collectible. Imagine a quarter with part of the design missing, doubled lettering, or misaligned imagery. Errors like these attract specialists and can sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on severity and eye appeal. Still, the most dramatic values do not come from errors but from rarity within perfection. Only a very small number of 1,974 quarters survive in flawless mint state, and their scarcity fuels competitive bidding among top collectors who want the finest example known to exist. When major grading companies certify a coin at extremely high levels such as MS-68 or beyond, the coin effectively enters a different world, no longer a circulation relic, but a numismatic trophy. This explains why one particular 1974 quarter shocked the collector community. It looked like an everyday coin, the same type millions of Americans had handled, saved, spent, and forgotten. Yet through extraordinary preservation and nearly perfect condition, it achieved a grade that placed it among the finest known examples of its type. When it appeared at auction, collectors recognized its rarity. The bidding intensified, driving the price higher and higher until it reached a number almost unimaginable for a coin with a face value of only 25 cents. Coins like this are reminders that rarity is not always about age, metal content, or historical symbolism. Sometimes rarity is born from chance, an ordinary coin preserved with extraordinary perfection. That reality is what keeps treasure hunters, hobbyists, and collectors endlessly fascinated. It is why people spend hours searching through pocket change or old jars in attics. They dream of finding that one special coin overlooked by everyone else, the kind of coin that turns a simple piece of American currency into a remarkable discovery. The 1974 Washington quarter continues to inspire that dream. Whether someone searches for mint mark varieties, error coins, proof strikes, or the elusive ultra-high-grade examples, the year 1974 offers a window into the world of numismatics that blends history, science, artistry, and the excitement of chance. Although most 1974 quarters will never be worth more than a few dollars, the rare exceptional examples prove that treasures still hide in the most ordinary corners of life. Collectors who learn the subtle differences, mint marks, strike quality, planchet condition, and grading scales, stand the best chance of uncovering something extraordinary. The Washington quarter, with its long history and timeless design, remains one of the most beloved series in American coin collecting. And among its vast timeline, the coins of 1974 have earned a quiet but powerful reputation, not because they are scarce, but because a few of them have demonstrated that even a modern circulating coin can reach astonishing numismatic heights. That truth is what makes the hobby beautiful. Anyone, anywhere, at any moment, could stumble upon a quarter that, through fate and preservation, has survived in immaculate form. The next remarkable discovery could still be out there, waiting in a forgotten roll or tucked away in a box of old keepsakes. For now, collectors look back at the jaw-dropping moment when one of these 1974 quarters achieved a value that stunned the community and carved its place in coin collecting history. That remarkable example reached a final auction price of $36,255. Today, we'll dive deep into the secrets, value, and hidden potential of the 1973 Washington quarter, especially those bearing mint marks, and why some rare examples have achieved astonishing prices in the collector's market. The year 1973 may seem like just another stop in the long timeline of American coinage, but a closer look reveals a fascinating year for U.S. currency. The Washington Quarter Series, first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, had already undergone decades of design and production refinements by the time 1973 came around. But even in a year with no major design changes, something incredible happened. A handful of quarters produced in 1973, because of their condition, minting precision, or rare features, became extremely valuable to collectors. Before discussing the highest value quarter from that year, it helps to understand the mint marks. The United States Mint produced 1973 quarters in multiple locations. These include the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark, the Denver Mint with a D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint, which produced proof coins marked with an S. While Philadelphia and Denver coins were made for everyday use, San Francisco focused on collectors, creating specially polished dies that resulted in mirror-like surfaces and sharper details. But not all coins, no matter the mint, come out perfectly. Variations in strike quality, die wear, and polishing conditions can make a world of difference. Some coins emerge with exceptional sharpness, while others show die cracks, doubling effects, and other unusual characteristics that collectors refer to as errors or varieties. These rare features can transform an ordinary quarter into a highly sought-after treasure. The 1973 Washington Quarter is made of the typical copper-nickel-clad composition, a combination adopted after silver was removed from circulating quarters in 1965. Silver was essential to U.S. coins for centuries, but rising metal prices forced the government to shift toward less expensive, more durable metals. As a result, quarters minted after 1964 no longer contained silver, but this didn't stop collectors from finding value in later dates. Even non-silver coins can become rare and expensive when they display high-grade surfaces or unusual minting anomalies. What sets certain 1973 quarters apart is their condition. Quarters that remain in pristine, untouched states are categorized at the top of the grading scale used by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC. Collectors refer to these perfect or near-perfect coins as mint state examples, especially MS-65, MS-66, MS-67, or higher. The higher the grade, the fewer examples exist, which dramatically increases their value. During the 1970s, people rarely saved their quarters for collection. Inflation was high, the economy was shifting, and most coins exchanged hands daily. That means most 1973 quarters were tossed into pockets, purses, registers, and vending machines. They received scratches, dings, and general wear. Because of this, finding a 1973 Washington quarter that survived in flawless condition is extremely difficult. This scarcity of high-grade examples contributes to the extraordinary value of those rare pieces that escaped damage. The search for error coins also has collectors fascinated. Among 1973 quarters, some show doubling on the lettering or the date, a variety known as a double die. Others display off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks that create unique raised lines on the surface. While these errors weren't intentional, they've become part of the charm and excitement of coin collecting. Each error coin is literally one of a kind, but the most impressive and legendary examples are those produced with exceptional clarity, sharp details, and flawless surfaces. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint particularly shine in this regard. Their deep cameo contrast, frosty design elements resting against mirrored backgrounds, makes them visually stunning, and collectors compete fiercely to own these top-tier proof specimens. What makes the 1973 quarter even more intriguing is the way coin collectors view it today. Even though it isn't a silver coin or a commemorative issue, its rarity in the highest grades has pushed some examples into the spotlight. Collectors know that as time passes, the number of high-quality pieces naturally diminishes. Coins become lost, damaged, or improperly stored. That means the finest remaining examples only grow rarer, adding to their desirability. One of the strongest drivers behind the rising value of rare coins like the 1973 quarter is the broader interest in numismatics. More people have taken up coin collecting in recent decades. With online auctions, collector forums, and grading services offering certification and authenticity guarantees, confidence in the hobby has surged. This increased demand has created a competitive environment that can push rare coins to impressive price levels, and that brings us to one of the most extraordinary examples of the 1973 Washington quarter ever recorded. A remarkable specimen, graded at the highest possible level for its category, with exceptional detail, immaculate surfaces, and flawless luster, caught the attention of seasoned collectors and bidders. The coin stood out not because it contained precious metal or bore a dramatic mint error, but because it represented perfection in a coin most people would never even look at twice. When this extraordinary 1973 quarter went to auction, it quickly became clear that bidders recognized its significance. The price climbed higher and higher, reflecting both the rarity and the unwavering demand among collectors striving to own the best example known. For a coin that once could have been picked up for 25 cents, its final auction sale stunned many in the numismatic world. This specific example of a 1973 Washington quarter sold for a staggering $30,255, a price that captures the imagination and inspires countless collectors to examine their own pocket change for hidden treasures. The story of this coin serves as a reminder that value isn't always found in precious metals. Sometimes, it's found in rarity, condition, and the passion of collectors who recognize something extraordinary when they see it. For anyone hoping to discover their own valuable 1973 quarter, it pays to know what to look for. Start with coins that appear unusually crisp or sharp. Mint luster, a bright glow that reflects around the coin when tilted, is a sign of a lightly handled or untouched coin. Examine the edges for nicks, the fields for scratches, and the lettering for clarity. A coin with no visible flaws stands a much better chance of being valuable. It's also helpful to look for error features, doubling in the word liberty, the date, or in God we trust, as well as misaligned strikes or clipped edges. While not every error is valuable, some can raise the price significantly if the coin is also in excellent condition. Another important step is submitting potentially rare coins to a professional grading service. Certification not only ensures authenticity but also gives you a recognized grade, which can dramatically increase the value of the coin when selling or auctioning it. Graded coins are placed in tamper-proof holders, preserving their condition for generations and making them safer investments for collectors. Of course, not every 1973 quarter will be worth thousands of dollars. Most will still be worth their face value. But the thrill of the hunt is part of what makes collecting so enjoyable. Every coin tells a story, about its journey, the era it was minted, and the chance that it might be something truly special. And as history has shown, even everyday coins can hold extraordinary surprises. The world of numismatics continues to evolve as new discoveries surface, and collectors become more informed and more passionate. The 1973 Washington quarter is a perfect example of how even a common coin can become rare, valuable, and deeply cherished. It represents not just a piece of metal, but a piece of American history and a source of inspiration for everyone who dreams of finding that hidden gem. In the end, the incredible sale of that near-perfect 1973 mint mark Washington quarter reminds all collectors that treasure can be found anywhere, from old boxes in the attic to spare change resting quietly in a drawer. And for that exceptional coin, the final auction price achieved was $30,255.